All right. I think it's still going up, but it's going up much slower now. So we are going to go ahead and get started with the Ask Us Anything session. Both Mike and Grant are Rockstar Ylopo users with very different viewpoints in the business, and I want to talk about that because it's going to help you to understand their perspective somewhat. What I want you guys to do, those 90, 100 some odd people that are on here, there is a Q&A button at the bottom, and I want you to ask questions in that section. Feel free to comment in the chat box if what Mike said offends you, because it probably will happen. I'm just kidding.
At least once. Yeah.
All right, so feel free to comment in the chat box, but then also put your questions there. The idea here is ask us anything. Mike and Long have one of the fastest growing brokerages in the country. How many did you grow from? Like, how many agents to how many agents?
Yeah, so our 5-year anniversary is coming up next month in April. We started with 8 agents. Today we have about 375 and still growing. So we're onboarding 100 to 200 a year right now. So #1 fastest growing in Minnesota as we speak.
And Ylopo is a value add to the agents signing up, right? It's a
yes.
Okay.
Yes, we've actually created an enterprise solution for both website and lead generation through our brokers with Ylopo, and we'll be talking about that before the end of the day. But we found that Ylopo has been a great value proposition for our agents.
Yes, exactly. And so Mike's perspective is he's taking the Ylopo product that all of us love, he's leveraging it for his entire brokerage and his brand, and he's scaling the entire business off of it. Grant, also a highly successful business from a different angle. How many agents do you have right now, and how many roughly units did you do last year?
Last year we did about 150 units with 5 agents.
Huge. That's
this year incredible. We're up to 8 agents now and trying to grow. Not like Mike, we're not growing to 300.
Say that now.
Yeah, I say that now.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, I consider us a small team.
Yeah.
So we're nothing huge.
Small team with big numbers.
So, and I like to say this too, Barry. So aside from the brokerage, my partner Long and I also run a production team. That the reason we got into the Ylopo in the first place is because we were buying so much Realtor.com, and we wanted basically just a remarketing platform. That's what we entered Ylopo strictly for, and we grew from there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And honestly, that's how they snuck me in too.
Yep.
Like, they get you in, and then like suddenly I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is incredible.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the questions are already coming in, and of course, my name's Barry Jenkins. I'm the Realtor in Residence. I run a team in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and I really want to make this about Mike and Grant speaking into your businesses. I have the opportunity to speak with both of these gentlemen quite frequently, and both of them are brilliant, and don't let their looks fool you. Sorry, I'm just going to keep doing it.
But you're right.
All right. So the first question here is from Sandra. She said, Barry, the tags you and I were talking about today are actually there for my team. However, when they filter the tags, that is when they are not seeing the tags. How can we fix that? All right, so Sandra, I'm going to have CS reach out. That is a Lion Desk question. And so that's an important question, but I want, I don't think either of, I use Lion Desk, but I won't be able to walk through that just right now. But I will get to your question a little bit later. Let's see, the next question, as a new user, please talk a little bit about how we should change the lead settings regarding behavioral texting and campaigns once the direct communication has taken place. And here's the big question. Should I follow up from that point based on scheduled tasks, eliminating the irrelevant drips, but keeping some of them? So I guess the question is, how involved should they be with the follow-up?
So Grant, you want to take this one first?
How involved should they be with the follow-up? Our plans are basically the lead comes in, we determine where they're at. They're an A, B, C, D buyer. Mm-hmm. And we set plans based on where they're at. Mm-hmm. So if it's an A buyer, we expect a meeting right now. If it's a B buyer, it's 90 days, and we set the appropriate follow-up, which for us is once a week with that type of buyer.
And what about somebody says that, and they're very forceful that they're not ready to transact business right now? It's going to take a while. How do you guys nurture that?
Okay, so we have a program for an e-buyer, and our e-buyer is basically we put them on a drip campaign, and then we call them or text them every other month.
Okay, all right.
So can I add something to that too?
Yeah, absolutely.
So one thing that we want to do that we found a lot of success with is trying to establish which track the buyer's on. Now, what Barry said right there, if they're not ready to transact, what does that do to the communication, right? So first things first, we're going to try to establish a timeline. What track are they on? Are they transactional right now? Because a lot of people assume just because it's a Facebook lead that they're not transactional. We've done a lot of transactions with new leads that came in that are looking to transact. A lot of what people, as we all know, though, are going to be longer term nurture. So we're going to try to establish that timeline. If they're going to be a year out, we're probably not going to try to want to show them a house tomorrow. It's just going to be a message that doesn't fit. But we're going to be trying to remove the pressure. Hey, you have no pressure to buy. I'm a resource here for you. What can I help you with in your journey? Do you need help with financing or whatever the case might be, right? So we're really trying to determine what that timeline is and then add appropriate messaging. And I think the original question is, do we just let the system run? I personally don't. If we can establish a timeline, it's great to have the automation. It really is. And if you really look at it, especially with longer term nurtures, it might take 5 or 10 contact attempts before you have a meaningful conversation. And you may have to do another 5 or 10 contact attempts before the next meaningful conversation. You may need to have 40 contact attempts before they actually do something with you. So the automation is very key.
Yeah.
But if you don't have your tasks and your agents, having their tasks for follow-up, you're still going to be dropping the ball.
Right. And that's how I run my team. You use the task and the system to kind of make sure that you didn't drop the ball, and then the automatic messaging kind of is that catch-all safety net. But Van, I think what I'm hearing from Mike and Grant, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, is there really is no exact right answer. It's more make sure you stay engaged and relevant to that specific consumer. Would that be a good oversimplification?
Yes, because the relevancy is a big part too, right? I mean, if we know we're dealing with a renter and they're a long time out, some of the custom messaging we're going to do that the system won't is we might send them information on, rental tax advantages, or something that's relevant to them. So we'll do some customizing there. You want to make sure that your messages are, are personalized enough when you can and your follow-up to actually stick out.
And stay in front of them over that amount of time.
Yes.
Perfect. No, that's huge. That's huge. And there's so much there that depending on future questions we'll get to, because both Mike and Grant have mastered this subject. It's why Grant sells a lot of homes. It's why Mike, not only his brokerage sells a lot of homes, but they recruit a lot of agents. It's very similar, the drip campaigns, I'm sure. Oh, I'm not ready to switch brokerages, or maybe next year, and you got to be relevant. So it really doesn't change. So this question is very interesting for me. It's from Jeff. He wants to know about small team recruitment, how to start like Grants. So I think both of you are going to be able to speak to this. So I'm actually really interested to hear your answers.
Go ahead, Grant.
Mike, you are so much better at recruitment than me. Go for it, man.
Okay, so with recruiting, here's the thing. We see a lot of people put the cart before the horse and recruited, and they start dialing a machine gun approach to recruiting. They just keep on dialing and calling and trying to interview agents. I think the first step in recruiting is understanding who you are as a team leader, like what your team model looks like, what your value proposition is, like who are you and where are you going, so you can then figure out which agents to align with. You don't want to hire agents that don't align with your model.
So what you're talking about is culture.
Culture and operations, right? If you're a lead team and all you're doing is leads, and you get somebody that doesn't want anything to do with leads, they want to work with their sphere of influence, that's going to be a mismatch, right? If you have a team that's very engaged, like everybody's together and you guys are making calls together, then you get the guy that wants to work from home and doesn't really want to come in. That's not going to align.
Correct.
So you have to make sure that your model aligns and you can articulate that model.
That's good.
And when you can articulate it, step 3 really is figure out your value proposition to that agent. You know who you are, you know who the agent you want is. Well, how do you articulate the value to an agent? Fourth step is building your custom audience. So you got to figure out, now I know what my ideal agent looks like. Maybe it's 10 deals a year to 15 deals a year. They want this value proposition. Now it's about building the custom audience of those agents to deploy to. And
Right.
step 5, this is where people start and why they often fail. They start in step 5, which is operationalize your recruiting efforts. So they're starting to operationalize before they have the other stuff figured out. And that's where they usually run into a problem.
Cart
And
before the horse.
Yep. And then step 6 would be really your onboarding process. Make sure that it's really building social proof. And what I mean by that is if people are seeing that you're adding agents and you're building case study around those agents. Hey, we hired Grant. Grant went from 18 to 20 transactions in 6 months with us. I'm going to blast that all over the place and build the social proof so I can attract more agents.
Sure.
So that's sort of the rundown.
Yeah, that is basically the roadmap to an amazing
To success.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. I actually just learned a lot, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, so did I.
No
And now I got to start recruiting.
Yeah.
Honestly, most of ours has come just from referral, from our agents meeting other people. That's been our biggest thing. And we hire on pure culture.
Yeah.
You got to be a culture fit or you're not joining our team.
Sure. I didn't recruit at first. Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say what Grant's talking about, his operationalizing of recruiting, what he's good at is he's getting his agents to be the sales arm of his recruiting,
Right.
mission. So that's something he's good at.
Yeah. No, that's great. I picked 10 to 15 unit agents, put them into an email campaign on MailChimp, just sent them stuff that I thought would help their business. And then I kept dwindling the funnel to people that kept opening and engaging it. And then I had, I think, maybe 50 people. And I started texting them content. And then I hired 4 agents from that. That was the first time I had ever tried it.
But what was the key that you just said? You gave before you asked.
Yeah.
Came for contribution.
Yep, every time.
So Charles wants to know, do you guys have a preference on new lead campaigns for Ylopo? Do you use the one that Ylopo gives? Have you modified it? What do you tell your agents at your brokerage, Grant? What do you use?
We basically let Ylopo handle it for us for the new lead campaigns. I'd rather hire the experts than me.
Yep.
So one thing that we've done is, for all the new leads, we throw everything into call action.
Okay.
So, and Barry, I think you're using call action too, aren't you?
I am. Yep.
Yep. So you can probably speak to this too, but when a new lead comes in, they're going right immediately to call action, which is really helping in the campaigning. It's helping scale all those contacts we need to make. So depending on your new lead, intake every month, if you're taking in a lot of new leads, you're going to notice it's hard for one ISA or a group of agents to keep up with it. You're going to see all those tasks not being cleared. It's going to make you mad. It's going to frustrate you because you think your agents aren't working yet. But if you're scaling, like I said, 7 to 12 contact attempts in between each conversation, and you're scaling that by 1,000 leads or 2,000 leads or 3,000 leads, or in our case, I think we've got 57,000 leads in our database. Try scaling those contact attempts one time.
It's impossible.
Yeah. So we'll basically let the system run with Ylopo and with call action, but we do have our tasks. Our agents still have to pick up the phone and do some contacts too, because once we start getting engagement, we need to learn about that lead. We need to learn about what their pain points are, what their motivation is, why are they moving, when do they want to move, why do they want to move at that time, because all those questions we can ask will help us determine what value we can add.
And our lead volume is smaller than yours. We're getting about 200, 250 leads a month. So we can keep up with the initial contact.
Right.
And then every one of our agents has about 100 in their follow-up boss account that they continue to nurture.
Right.
And then the rest all go into a pond account.
Yep. So, for us, what we do is we have a single point of contact with our ISAs. And if the ISAs, will campaign for, 10 days and nothing happens, then our agents will kind of jump in and just start, taking from there, if you want to call it a pond, like on a call night or something like that.
Right.
That's what we've done. The problem I find with agents, and I think a lot of the, Zillows of the world are figuring this out too, if you can remove the nurture and follow up from the agent and get them just working with the customer, that's what they want to do. It's what they're good at.
That's a game changer if you can get there.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And we are going to the ISA model. We just have not found the right ISA to hire yet.
That's always a challenging part. It is.
Yes.
Yep. Anything to add to that, Barry?
Yeah, well, I actually hired an ISA when I was going through a bunch of transition. It was not the right time to hire an ISA. She was licensed, and I knew She said, I love calling. Ding. So, we've secured in 60 days, she's averaging $1 million in new business a month from leads that everybody forgot about. So for me, it's an efficiency play. And I told her, I said, call, say, going through my files, don't see if you ever bought or sold, just want to update the file to see if we should continue to work with you. When they say, not if, when they say they're not ready to buy, because that's what they're going to say, then I gave her a roadmap of how to handle them not being ready. And
Right.
all we're doing is we're slotting into 3 sections, either buyer consult, we incentivize the person to meet with us. We break it up from buyer consult to lender consult. You need to know what you're approved for. You need to know about your payments. And then the third is home tour program. You're not ready, good. Let's go look at a home anyway. And what we found by doing that, we're giving people the opportunity to allow their motivation to grow. They get excited. And what they perceive to be blockers normally is just a farce. A bunch of questions on this. Like I'm seeing like probably 7 or 8 questions on the subject of lead follow-up and nurturing. So I'm thinking maybe what we need to do is kind of dive into this probably a little bit more than what any of our brains think, because it's just, this is a big question. So let's start with this. When you're breaking up when your agents are breaking up the database and saying this is a now buyer, this is a soon to come buyer, what are some parameters you can tell everybody listening? This is how you guys separate stuff.
So can I start with that? Just I want to touch a little bit on what you're talking about, Barry. So when you're hearing the I'm not ready to buy right now, and that's one of the things we're looking for is what track them on. If they're not ready right now, first question, do they have a task to accomplish? Some people are strictly aspirational. They have no task to accomplish. You just want to surf on, online and look at houses because they're going to move in a year. They're doing nothing more. There's not much to do with that, but we're going to be able to remove the pressure from them feeling like they have to buy with us today. If we can do that, that's great. But once they have a task to accomplish, whether that's needing information on mortgages, credit repair, school districts, you name it, once it's task driven, we're able to put them into kind of a different bucket of what we can do in order to help them accomplish that task. If they're up here in aspirational zone, they're not ready to accomplish a task yet, we'll move them down there to research through the nurture and automation over time, right? But once they're engaging, they need something. Now the task that they get towards the bottom of the funnel is they want access and information to specific property. XYZ Main Street, I want to get in, I want to know about it, is it available, what's the price, yada, yada, yada. That task is when they become hot and heavy and they want phone calls, right? They want to hear from you or they'll move on. So for us, segmenting the database, it's going to be based on aspirational research or transactional. And we'll figure out what message, what action plan to put to that lead based on where they're at in that cycle.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I like that. I hadn't thought about that word, but aspirational. They're dreaming basically.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Communication is around that. So that's very much in touch with the consumer. That's brilliant. Grant, how about you?
So, ours, if you're talking about how we lead the people through the path, the lead comes in first, right? And we call it a to be determined lead for us. And we're just trying to determine what they are. Are they a now buyer? Are they never going to buy? So we can be like what Mike's doing is lead them down the path. And we stole a lot from you, Barry, with the home tour, the love it or leave it programs. Yeah. And we're offering all that. But like for us, an A buyer, it's a 0 to 90 day buyer, right? And they're going to buy 0 to 90 days. You better have an appointment with them. You better be getting them pre-approved for a mortgage.
Right, right.
And then, 90 days to 6 months, how do you follow up with that? What do you offer them? So we've come up with different USPs, and we stole most of them from you, Barry, in all honesty.
I stole them from somebody else, so it's fine.
So it works out perfect. And Mike stole them from somebody else too, I'm sure. So
we call it, in high school it's cheating.
Yeah.
No, but here it's expected. We call it R&D, right? Rip off and deploy.
And that's how I got through high school.
Yeah, right.
So, but, and it's offering them enough, something of value to lead them down the path. To, you talked about feeding a baby a cheeseburger, right? You're not going to do that.
Right.
And it's just leading them because they don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
I like to tell the agents on our team, everybody wants permission to buy a house. So like when you're a little kid, your mom and dad give you permission to do everything, right?
Right.
Going buying a house is a big deal. And you want somebody to support you and back you on it. You want somebody to tell you it's okay.
Right. That's huge.
And I think it's also important to note too that you got to give them permission. That yes, you have permission to buy, but you also have permission to buy when you're ready.
Correct.
You know, so my action plan is going to make sure that we remove pressure to buy now. We'll give them permission, knowledge, tools to buy. And we'll even help solve their problem, because remember, nobody loves to move, guys. How many people get up and go, you know what, I just feel like moving today because it sounds super fun to pack up, lose money, you know, disrupt my life. People move because they're solving a pain point or they're going to some higher goal, right? It's
every single time.
Every time, right? So if you can address the pain point and figure out why they're going to move, and maybe it's a misconception. You know, I can't move for a year because I don't have my 20% down payment. Well, why would you need 20% down? You can start identifying. One thing you got to do, and this is something agents are not good at doing, I don't think, is start asking really good questions, and a lot of them.
That's
you know, you have to ask really good questions, you know, because if you just ask them when they want to move, if you're an order taker, just writing things down and taking their order, they don't know what they're doing. You start asking good questions, you start discovering what they don't know. And what
So you're educating them all the way through the process. It's education.
Every time.
I think the most powerful thing you can do with one of them is tell them it's okay. You don't need to buy it right now. You know, you're out showing them a house. You don't buy this house. This isn't the right house for you.
Correct.
You're going to build so much more rapport with somebody by doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell my agents, you know, if they're ready, you can ask them those specific questions. If they're not ready, go be not ready with them. And what everybody else is doing is waiting for them to get ready. You ready? No? Okay, I'll call next month. You ready? Okay, I'll call next month. And what we're doing is we're saying, oh, good, you're not ready. Let's go sit down and be not ready together. And be relevant to the not ready person today. And it's opened up a lot of opportunities for my agents that weren't there.
But Barry, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
It is. You know? Because guess what? The reality is, again, these people have no task to accomplish. But the minute they do, if you've already started to build that rapport, now think about this, right? We think about the disruptors in the market, the Zillows, the Open Doors, right? So everybody, and we've got Open Door in our neck of the woods, but I'll tell you something. What happens is Open Door will call, as a seller will call Open Door, they'll call it like a Redfin, and then they'll call a traditional agent. They'll call all three and get a comparison, right? What we're trying to do is get our agents, and this is relevant and you'll see why, we're trying to get our agents to be the first and single greatest or only point of contact. How do we do that? Well, if we're working with an Open Door product of our own, they won't call Open Door first, they'll call us. Why? Because we have what they're looking for. So it's the same thing with YLOPO leads or any leads. Before they start accomplishing tasks around you, let them know that the tasks that they are going to need to accomplish, it's all in-house. You've got it. It's about them understanding that, know you, like you, trust you, understand your model, what you can offer,
right?
And keeping in front of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So one thing with this, because I want people to be able to write this down, you know, breaking these people down into buying timelines, there's no right answer. What I decided to do was to take color, timeline, letter, and merge them. And so red is A, 90 days. B is warm, 120 days. You know, basically, so we broke it into some people like letters, some people like timelines, some people like words, like temperature gauges. There's no right or wrong answer. The issue is you've got to just make a decision how to break it down and then decide how many times do I want to speak to these people. Would that be a good oversimplification, guys?
It's fantastic. Yeah, we haven't got as far as you because we're still on letters.
Yeah.
But
can I show you something here? If I can share my screen?
Yeah, share your screen.
So we created a graphic for it. So our agents, we wanted this graphic in front of our agents so they could see it. They could go, you know, where are these people? Are they aspirational, research, or transactional? We did the ABC thing for a long time. So I wanted to try something different and make it more visual. I just think people are visual. Then the other graphic we did was we kind of illustrated.
Go back up. I want to take a screenshot of that. That's really good.
Mike's going to send it to us, I hope.
Actually, I already posted it on the YLOPO Success Community. It's there, but I can send it to you for sure. Yep. Then the other one is illustrating the amount of contact attempts. Each one of these represents a conversation. Each dot represents a contact attempt. So we're trying to show our agents, this is what your workflow really looks like. If you call 2 times. Now, I remember before the stat that I heard years ago, and it's probably the same now, was that the average connection with a buyer was connected between a contact attempt 5 through 12. 80% of connections happen between contact attempt 5 and 12. And most of those happen between attempt 7 and 10. So that's where the bulk of the connections actually happen. Yet the average agent would try to make a connection twice at best, 1 to 2 times.
And I think what you're hitting on, Mike, is the number one problem I hear from agents that I talk to is that I'm not converting. And it is what I'm seeing consistently. They're just not doing that, 10, 12, 20th attempted contact.
So this is why I put the graphic together so they could see it. But then also, we use Follow Up Boss. That's our CRM. What I like about Follow Up Boss is we can assign those tasks. When the action plans are assigned, we can see their dashboard and see, hey, how come you're not following up? I can see all these uncleared tasks.
And we do that weekly on our team. We go through and randomly pull leads out to see how the follow-up's been done. And if the follow-up's not been done, we run on a first to claim, right? The lead comes in as first to claim.
Yep.
And if you're not doing your follow-up and I go in there and randomly check, you're out of the rotation till you're caught up.
So here's the thing, right? You do that and you'll find there's a correlation. When agents are clearing their tasks, conversion's higher. When they're not, conversion is lower. Period.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So we've got a ton of questions over here, Barry. Should we start getting to some of these?
Yeah, I was just being overwhelmed. All right, so one is, what are your favorite questions to ask a new lead? Let's go ahead and buzz through that one. What do you guys like your agents to ask?
Which one do you want to do first?
Go ahead, Mike. You love to hear yourself talk.
I hope that's okay. I'm just being
you're the best, man.
So, anyway, one of my favorite questions is in a perfect world, when would you like to be in your new home? Or, if you could just pick a date of the air, when would you like to be in your new home? Like trying to establish that timeline is one of the first things I like to do.
Yeah.
We try to keep them really open-ended like you're doing. Personally for us, it really comes down to a conversation more than just questions.
Okay, good. Focus on the conversation. We like to ask the question that they can answer regardless of how long they've been thinking about it. If they're not prepared to talk about this, so they're top of funnel, I want to ask them a question that's relevant to them, but also that's relevant to the person that's bottom funnel. So we still start with, out of what you're seeing on our website, does anything stand out, good or bad? Because it doesn't matter. And really, secretly, we're getting their property criteria. When do you guys have the lender reach out with a client?
That's a hugely important question, because what you're going to find is these leads are not just leads on Ylopo. These people are bouncing around all over the place, and they're talking to a lot of different agents, right? So if you do not control where the lending goes, that lender that they end up meeting is likely going to try to pull that buyer and bring them to their preferred realtor. Right. So I think control the lending piece is going to be very important. So our lender conversion is really tight. We try to do
super
that
early.
Exactly.
Yep. Super early in the process for us.
Likewise. Same here. If we can get them, I imagine it as being like a conveyor belt. Get them on the lender, and then they come right back to me.
Yeah, if our lender gets them, we're getting them.
Yeah,
it's 100% of the time.
So what we do is, if we're on the phone with them and the financing comes up, and they tell us, already approved with Rocket Mortgage or whatever, what we do is we say, awesome, that's great, that's super good that you're already ahead of that. Here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to have so-and-so call you, and here's why. Because it's a second arrow in your quiver. If you can't get a hold of your lender, like if Rocket doesn't answer the phone on Saturdays at 8 o'clock at night when you try to write an offer, this guy will. And by the way, here's what's also really cool about it. He might be able to save you like $10,000 or more on your mortgage. They go, what do you mean? Well, because even a 4% interest rate over 30 years, it's going to be $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 in the lifetime of the loan. Right. Very few people say they don't want to explore that option.
One of our lenders will give them a $100 Visa gift card just to talk to them for a second chance.
Wow. We usually, with the lender, we'll say something like, do you have a friend or a family member in the business, to segue into it, just because we know most people say no. We're just trying to gain trust. But then what we do is, even if they do have somebody, we say, look, this is the largest purchase of your life. You owe it to yourself to have a second opinion, and you'll win. You'll win if you talk to 2 lenders right around the same time. Trust me, suddenly things will start falling from the sky to your benefit. You want to talk to more than one. So we usually get our guy in there that way.
So every time your lender's going to win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every time.
Absolutely.
So depending on where we are with the buyer, how the relationship, how far along it is, one thing that's worked really well for us from the lender conversion is to say that, hey, you're one customer to whoever you work with. We're thousands a year. Our guy, if he screws something up, he ain't screwing up for one customer. He's screwing up for thousands a year. Like, they're not going to screw something up. They're going to give the best deal and the best service because they want to protect the relationship with us.
Yeah.
Right? That's actually gotten us a lot of business.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So if an agent's not clearing out their tasks, what is your process, but like, how do you turn them off from your CRM? I think this is more Grant because he's a team, but Mike, you guys might have a process as well.
We do, because again, we also run the production team, so we do have 12 people that are taking these leads too. So we're very high on accountability with those 12 people. Yep. So
how do you do that, like, as far as the process?
Grant, you want to start?
For us, realistically, Karen goes in, and so do I. We randomly check, like I said, and we just take them off the first to claim.
Okay.
Until they're caught up on their tasks. We go in weekly though and check all the tasks, randomly if nothing else, like a random sample.
Okay. All right.
So one thing we've done, we built a scoring system. We review our agents once a month, and they're scored on 3 things. 1, are they closing? That's the biggest. That's the heaviest weight, metric that we have. What are you closing? 2, are you clearing your task and putting your notes in the CRM? And 3, are you showing up to trainings, meetings, and are you engaged? Okay. Now, we have it's 11 points total they can earn. If they don't earn higher than 8, we bench them. We'll retrain them, we'll re-educate them, we'll put them back on the team when they prove they can do it again. That's been pretty successful because they know what the reviews look like. There's no favoritism. There's no chance of them not understanding it. So they're like, it's just simple math. You get 8 or above.
Yeah, Mike, that comes back to culture though. You're building a culture there.
Yep.
That's all it's about.
Yeah. I mean, what we do is we give the agents 3 weeks to work a new lead to try to at least make initial contact. If there's nothing happening where like we think there's a relationship, we move them over to the ISA team and they go after it. And then I let my agents keep 100 relationships that are labeled, A, B, C, D. They keep those. And honestly, I don't think they can pay attention to more than 50. So I'm really being kind by letting them focus on 100 people. But like, what I told my agents, like, if you sell all these people a house, that's a good year. 100 agents or 100 deals, that's a good year. And so just focus on the people that want to talk to you. And then I've got people doing cleanup. That's been working really, really well. It's keeping them organized. Another question. What do you guys do when the ads aren't working? So a couple people said they're getting a lot of renters and their lead cost is super high. How do you guys handle that if something isn't going right?
I call support.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think it's inevitable. I think you are going to get some people that are not ideal leads, but this is one of the things that you have to figure out. And a lot of agents are going to say the leads are no good. I'm not getting good leads. The lead quality sucks. And I'm not converting anything. So you really have to ask yourself, what is your expectation, right? I've seen people fall off lead programs because they say that, leads suck. I'm getting these renters. They have agents. These are terrible leads. They're the same leads that are going to go on Realtor.com, 2 months from now and go there that people are going to say, I love these leads. Right. It's the same people. So you have to check your systems, your expectations, that if you know how to work these leads, you're going to do more business. And you're not going to convert 100% of them no matter what you do. There's just no way you're going to do it, So you have to kind of, look at that and say, what do I really expect for my ROI to be? If I'm spending X a month, what am I closing? And what's my ROI look like?
Okay.
It comes back to the structure of your team or business.
All right. Yep. Grant, anything you want to add on if the ads aren't working, call support?
No, we obviously we had an issue, we were getting a lot of rental ads, so I did call support. But even people that are renters, they're going to be buyers someday, right? Right. So how do you keep in front of them? How do you follow up with them long term? And
so one thing we do with that, and again, like I said, you can't always control that. I mean, you're going to get some weird stuff that comes in, but partner, right? So we use Home Partners of America. Most
absolutely
have home partners. Yep. We'll take renters and we'll throw them through Home Partners, and we get a full commission.
Sure.
Yep.
So having those outlets, credit repair is another one. Why are they renting? Well, my credit sucks. Great. Do you have a credit repair relationship? Yep. And you can get them. Do they want to be a renter? Or do they want to be a buyer? So have that conversation.
And they have to want it for the credit repair.
Yeah.
But what we're doing, if they do want it and they go through the program, and we're using your credit repair person, Mike.
Yes. Yep.
And she charges $395, if I remember right.
Yep.
We tell them if they go through the program, they get their credit where they can buy, they buy through us, we'll reimburse them the $395.
Nice. And here's the thing too, right? If you really look at the stats, how many people want to rent, it's like 70% of people want to be a buyer. They don't really want to be a renter.
Right.
So 7 out of 10 renters that call you don't want to rent. And the ones that do, you've got a system like Home Partners or somebody like them that you can funnel them to. So you're still, for the most part, have lead opportunity there if you know what to do with it.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. You know, I use the analogy, we were talking about ice fishing. You know, what bait catches what fish, right? And I don't fish, so I'm going to use wrong terms. You just have to forgive me. But, you know, in certain parts of the country, a certain type of lure will catch a certain kind of fish. And so when you're running your marketing, if the bait in the ads you're using are catching a fish, renters, that you don't want to work with, you need to tell Ylopo, hey, whatever we're doing is getting me these types of leads. Are there any themes? And the way that I tell my agents and then also Ylopo users is we're the local market expert and Ylopo is the marketing expert. Your money will be better spent if you just let Ylopo know, hey, this is the bait that I think people will bite off of. Like I told Ylopo, new construction's huge, waterfront's huge, let's really hit that. And I was getting new construction leads for like $2.50. I mean, it was nuts.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling them what's going to help me. But then I also think salespeople like to complain about the lead. I mean, that's what we do. There's nothing wrong with us when we do that. I would make the case that a sale is always taking place. Either that person's selling you on why they're not a good buyer, or you're selling them on why they can buy. There's influence going on in every conversation, and we have to make the decision if what we believe. If we believe all the leads are bad, then the leads are all going to be bad.
It's all in your head.
Two things, Barry. First off, I think you really want us to have you come out and do some ice fishing with us because you brought that up twice now.
Yeah.
So
when you coming out? Next week?
Number one. And the second thing is I think you just pulled a boiler room line kind of, which was pretty awesome. So the reality is though, and I think you hit it right on the head. These leads, you can kind of control the advertising and who you're targeting, right? But no matter what you do, you're still going to get some people that come in sideways. It is what it is. I think identifying what you just said, giving them permission to buy, like that's really what we're talking about. That's really what we're doing. These people want to buy, and giving them permission to do so and a pathway to do so. That's really what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
It's leading them down the path.
Okay. All right. Good. What do you guys for your remarketing budgets? How are you gauging that? Are you using the $75 to $100 per 1,000, or what are you doing?
Ours is too low. I need to up it. Okay. We have 14,000. I think we're only spending $500 a month right now.
Okay.
I know ours is too low. Okay. So yes, I'm going to go to that program. I just haven't done it yet.
Okay.
So we're a little heavier on remarketing. I'll tell you why. Because right now we're running so many platforms that are bringing things in. We've got open houses. I know that Ylopo's now launching the open house tool, which is awesome. We've been using Spacio, but anything through Spacio dumps into Follow Up Boss. Anything that we get through Call Action from a sign call dumps through Follow Up Boss. Anything that comes in through ProQuest, we dump in through Follow Up Boss. Everything goes there. Realtor.com. The reason we got Ylopo to begin with is we were getting all these RDC Realtor.com leads, and I didn't love the fact that I didn't have a system that they could get on my home search. It was clunky.
Right.
I can't tell you how many people through Realtor.com right now are coming in through Ylopo remarketing. It's insane. I mean, you know what I'm saying, Barry. You do the same thing, right? It's like, oh my God, another, remarketing. Now they're on our home search, not on RDC. If I can privatize their home search and get them off the portals, they stop talking to other agents. That's my primary focus.
That's the game changer right there.
It is. And Ylopo, for the remarketing, it really helps that happen. So another thing I was going to say on that, our budget's a little bit bigger for what we're doing, but I think we're going to go even bigger than that because, we've got now 57,000 people in our database, sphere of influence, you name it. You get them on your home search, you control that, you control all that front end. Like on the front end, when they're talking to agents, when they actually want to have a task to accomplish, you're controlling that from front to back, you convert 10 times more.
Yeah, I remember G was teaching, and I don't remember the exact data, but it was talking about remarketing. And what they found was, so they were gauging priority alerts. And priority alerts are just Ylopo saying, hey, the lead did something significant. You need to know about it. And what they found, when someone had a database above 4,000 or 5,000 people, that was what G called the Mendoza line, which I still don't know what that is, but that's what he said. He said the 4,000 to 5,000 people is the Mendoza line. Once somebody hits that number of leads, when you're running $400 to $500 a month for those people, you're going to multiply in significant results. And I know for me, I prioritize remarketing over new leads. If I'm ever going to back off of something, it's always going to be new leads versus remarketing, just because it's so valuable. And what's great for me is 2 years ago, I bought Ylopo, and Zillow and Realtor were still a mainstay in my business. It's taken about 2 years, but the spend I have now, I went from $100,000 a year on Zillow to about $5,000 a year.
Yeah.
And so it's been a slow process, but I've slowly worked the addiction. They were like jonesing for Zillow leads, so I had to slowly work them away. I don't know if you guys have found anything similar about being able to adjust it or anything.
So we're actually at a 0 Zillow spend now.
No.
So
and you're right, because what happens if you look at lead generation as a whole, there's like two conflicting philosophies you see with agents or teams. And the first philosophy is, if you want to close more, keep buying more. Yep. And just keep on spending more money. If you're closing, if you're doing a 2-to-1 ROI and you want to make $100,000, you got to spend 50, right? Or the other philosophy is, I'm going to not just keep buying new opportunity. I'm going to really maximize the opportunity that I've already got. So if you already have this database full of stuff, before you start spending a bunch of money, start putting in some systems to maximize what's already there, because you're buying opportunity, but you already have it. It's already sitting there. Right?
What's the difference in your ROI when you do that? It goes through the roof.
A lot, big time. This is where guys like myself, we're doing 3-to-1, 4-to-1 on our really good months, 5-to-1 ROI net after paying out ISAs and ad spend and everything.
Yeah.
And this is on portals like Realtor.com. So on Ylopo, it's even bigger.
Sure. So did just learn what the Mendoza line is. It apparently is a baseball analogy. Shortstop. It's the line of good batting versus bad batting average. So fun fact for you. I just learned something new. Thanks, everybody. Can
I touch on a question here, Barry, before I forget?
Anything, yeah.
So somebody asked a question about the Love It or Leave It. You've got that. I want to tell a story what we've done with Love It or Leave It too. We had an agent that had a billboard, just her face on a billboard on a busy highway. 1 year, got 0 phone calls. Threw up Love It or Leave It, text Love It or Leave It too, and she had 6 listings in 8 weeks from that USP.
Wow.
So that's a big one. So somebody had a question on that. Do you want to kind of talk about what that looks like?
Yeah, I'd love to hear yours. I mean, ours is basically if they buy a home and with us and they don't love it within 12 months of buying it, we will list it for free if we're the listing agent and they're buying another home with us. Yeah. So it's a huge win. I got it from Club Wealth. I'm sure you did.
I did too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'm not in Club Wealth, but I stole it from you, Barry. We do the exact same one.
Yep. So as far as USPs go, that and Instant Offer have been the two that we seem to get the most response from. But that Love It or Leave It's a little different. Not everybody sees it. And when you're giving them risk reversal, saying, look, if I buy with you and I don't like it, I can move out and sell it for free. That's risk reversal. That gives you a leg up. Keep in mind, nobody knows you, likes you, or trusts you. It's all about the home search when they enter in your lead funnel. They don't really care about you. If you have a USP that actually connects them to you to want to talk, that helps.
Mike, that comes back to giving them permission. You're making it easy for them.
Yep. Excuse me. You're actually removing pain points, right?
Yeah.
I would like to move, but man, what if I don't like where I live? Or what if I'm not picking the right house? You're actually helping them in removing that stress point.
And it's very rare somebody takes advantage of it.
You might do 10, 15 transactions and get burnt with one where you don't collect a commission side.
Right.
Absolutely. The USPs are where it's at. Now, with regards to conversion rates in your net, I find that while looking at Ylopo and saying, what is the conversion rate of Ylopo? What's the ROI on Ylopo? That is a very complicated answer for me, and I'll share why in a minute, but I'm very interested. If I was an agent and I said, hey, Grant, hey, Mike, I'm thinking about Ylopo, what's your ROI? How do you answer that question?
I know how I do, but go ahead, Grant.
You know, it is complicated because are you talking about over a year? Are you talking about over 2 years? Because if they're early funnel leads, how are you going to measure that, right?
Last 12 months.
Last 12 months. If I know what we're at about 4 times just because I know that, but I'm taking you got to break it down. What's the remarketing? I got to break the whole thing down. So I always answer just saying we're right around 4 times.
So I'd like to add this too. You do have to segment it out because you're going to have a different ROI if you're using remarketing heavily versus just new lead gen. If you broke those 2 things out, really what you're doing is you're taking the remarketing to people that are further down the funnel, and that's going to have a higher ROI than maybe somebody that's brand new and 18 months out. But I will say this too: you can't measure it strictly on ROI because there's other tools within Ylopo,
right?
High value, like the Listing Rocket seller reports, right? I mean, things like that, the open house tool. Those are all things that are sort of just tools in your business that it's hard to say, here's my ROI. But it's there. It's just hard to measure it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So for me, I've got the new lead ROI, which is I got X amount of leads. I closed X amount of them. And this was my return on investment for that. But then you've got remarketing. Like, my gosh, remarketing of leads from Ylopo, Realtor.com, ZBuyer, Craigslist, Open House Lead. They're all coming in. We're remarketing, and they're coming back. And I've got over 10,000 people that are using my website daily. So out of the billions of dollars Zillow is spending for market share of the brains and minds of buyers in our community, 10,000 people are using my little old website with my little old $4,000 to $5,000 a month marketing budget. They've decided that I'm relevant. How do you put an ROI on that, right? Like, do I attribute the realtor lead with the realtor closing, or the fact that when they came in from realtor, now they're using my website every day? So that's why it's not that it's not a good question. It's that I feel like because of the depth of Ylopo tools, it makes it a more complicated, while still important, a more complicated discussion. Is that fair to you guys?
Well,
yeah, I look, what am I getting off my sphere from the sphere marketing that they're touching? I can't even measure that, right?
Yeah.
Or how about this? We're not even talking about recruiting. How do you start talking about recruiting and you bring on, 3 agents that love the product, and each of those agents are, call it $50,000 a year of gross, income to your team. Do you start measuring that with your ROI? So, I mean, it's hard to really answer that question because of the scope of what Ylopo really does. But I can tell you this much. Even an average converter, just letting the system run on its own, and you give it a year to do so, is going to have an ROI. Right. If you are a smart, good converter with systems, with follow-up, with accountability, with the real operations behind what you're doing, you're going to kill it with the ROI in Ylopo. It's just how it is.
I typically return on investment, I'm getting 4 to 5 times every dollar I spend on Ylopo. With Zillow, because Zillow got so expensive, I was closing almost as much in units with Zillow versus Realtor, but the ROI was barely profitable. Like, I'm talking about maybe like 10% profitable, nowhere near 400%. And I feel like Zillow and Realtor.com, I still buy Realtor.com, not as much, but I still buy it. And I feel like they've kind of hoodwinked the industry to think that you can only have one kind of conversation. Do you want to go see the house?
Right.
And that's the lead if they say yes. And it's unfortunate.
So the most of the portals are really geared towards the transactional buyers. Jesse Baudouin of Call Action, he brought up a good point not that long ago. He was talking about that if you look at the Zillow stats, 30% of all Zillow activity of inquiries really is click to call. They're sitting in front of a sign in a yard.
I want to see that house.
Yeah, they call the listing agent. The person doesn't answer. Their next step is click to call on Zillow, and boom, right? And it goes to the Zillow agent. So that's their whole model, is that right there. But what's happening with Ylopo is you're able to fish upstream and catch those people long before they're in front of a house and calling on a sign. You're catching them months before. Now, I wanted to share this with you guys too. I don't know if you guys use ListHub or List Track or any of the syndication reporting analytics, but if you look, we do this on all our listings. We carry 200 to 300 listings at a time in the office. So I look at the analytics on this. What we'll see is Zillow, like the syndication through Zillow and Realtor.com, Zillow will have sometimes 23, 24, 25,000 impressions on searches on one listing. The click-throughs might drop down to maybe 500, 1,000, but the actual inquiries drop way down to almost nothing, like maybe one or two, okay? Then you look at something like HomeSnap or HomeSpotter, like a direct branded portal. Like this is somebody that gave a link to someone and said, here, Grant, you're my buyer, take my, HomeSpotter, HomeSnap, link. And this is an app and here's how you can search your property. Now, if you look at that, the number of impressions are way down compared to Zillow. But the number of inquiries, like the percentage of people taking the next step is so much higher. Why? Because it's a privatized search and it's given to them by an agent. And if you can control that portion of it to really privatize that search and make sure that they're not just jumping on a portal to get their next step, that is so big in the landscape of lead conversion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to some more of these questions. These are some really good ones. Do you guys use mass texting? And if you use Follow Up Boss, how do you do it?
We do not.
You got to be very careful on that. Follow Up Boss doesn't even allow it.
Nope.
So you got to be very careful on that because I know one or two people that have got bit by that with the law.
All right. So what we did was on a Ylopo lead, if they're 5 to 6 months, if they've registered from Ylopo, we know that they've opted into text communication.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
And what I would do, because Follow Up Boss doesn't do mass texting, I connected Follow Up Boss with a third-party service called Zapier.
Yep.
Stick with me. Zapier to Agent Legend is what I did. And anytime my agent tagged the lead, Nurture, for example, I created a Zap that said, hey, Zapier, anytime my agent tags the lead, Nurture, I want you to send the lead to this campaign in Agent Legend. And then Agent Legend would start sending the text messages. But that was not a, one-off blitz. LionDesk does do mass texting. And the messaging we use normally is pretty general. Like, hey, did you ever find that home you were looking for? I've got some slots open this weekend. I'd love to make an appointment with you. Or, hey, there's some open houses this weekend. Did you want me to send them to you? Very general in nature.
Yeah, we've done the same thing. When we've done things in mass, we got to be very careful how we do it just because, when they opt in, there's a certain time frame that expires, right? That doesn't mean you can do it forever. So that's why we're careful with it. But some of the messages that work for us is centered around things like market reports. We sent one out saying, hey, everybody kept asking me. I sent this generalized video campaign, right? And the video was, I was at this get together last weekend. Everybody wanted to know about the market. Everybody wants to know how the market's doing. So it dawned on me, I'm going to send out market reports. If you want one, let me know. Text report to market report 2, and I'll send one to you. And I think we got like a huge engagement on that thing. We did like 40 market reports in a day that way. So anything you can do to not, again, you're not trying to necessarily go out and show them houses, but general and value. That's really what we're looking for.
The list of open house one is huge.
Yep.
It's huge for us.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know why it works. It wouldn't work for me, but it does seem to work really, really well. How do you guys pay your agents, team agents, for Ylopo deals? So they speak to a Ylopo lead, they convert it. How do you pay them?
We're a flat 50-50.
Okay.
Us too. Yep.
Me too. Yeah, me too. Yep.
So from a broker solution, though, what we've done, this is the enterprise solution. This probably doesn't apply to many people on the call unless you are a broker. But what we've done on that is we've opened Ylopo up for a couple of different things. You can jump on our platform, and if you jump on our platform, what we're going to do is charge you a platform fee, and then you can control your own ad spend. So if you want to spend, 200 remarketing, 200 new lead gen, as long as you pay $100 to be on our platform, each month, we'll let you do that. Secondarily, if you're not on our platform, we'll charge $80 for a listing rocket ad on your listing, and then you'll be able to get the seller report for your seller. That's been huge for us.
Yeah, it's a great broker format there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Grant's got a question for you. How do you run your call nights?
Often, but so what we used to do is we used to make them really competitive among the team members and found out it didn't work. So what we've done is it's all about fun now. So we brought a coffee cart in, or we'll have somebody come in and cook, and we'll have a team goal now. So we'll have a team goal of setting 30 appointments. And if you set 30 appointments, everybody on the team wins something.
Okay.
And so we tried to bring it back to the culture of everybody working together.
That's smart.
So we just did a call night, but we did it with call night bingo. We
did the bingo too.
Yeah. So we did that. That turned out wonderful. I think we did about 15 appointments at the call night with, I think, 11 people that were there. And then we had the next day 4 to 5 other appointments from callbacks that happened.
I don't think we've ever set less than 13 in a call night for appointments.
Right.
It for us, it's the most powerful thing we do. And it gets everybody together and it gets everybody working together. And the energy is incredible when we do it.
I think it also translates too that, if you want them to stay on the grind of the action plans and all the follow-up, if you're doing the monthly call night, it kind of, that momentum carries for like the next week. And then, that really helps out long-term, I think.
Once in a while, we'll just throw an impromptu call day up too.
Yep.
Hey, everybody, I'm going to be calling tomorrow these hours. Who wants to come in?
Yep.
And I'll do things like, I'm going to go in this day and call for these hours. Any appointment I set, I'll give out to somebody.
Absolutely. No, that's I know for me, I think it also helps with dealing with rejection. Your peers are there encouraging you. Oh, good, you got yelled at. Put the bingo on. It doesn't encourage us being mean to people, but people are mean to us. And it helps to know that there's some camaraderie there. That it's okay. Let's see. What is your conversion rate of Ylopo leads? That's one that came up a couple times.
That goes back to how do you measure that too, right? I mean, where's it coming from?
So can I instead of asking like that, can we talk about maybe some best practices to increase conversion rate? Not just measure it, right? So as I just mentioned a minute ago, one thing that we're starting to do is a lot more BombBomb videos to leads. And the reason we're doing that is because, again, they don't know you, like you, or trust you. But if you can build a real human-to-human interaction by video, it's way less intrusive than, you going up and door knocking them. But they're still, seeing you. They're still seeing your face, seeing a real person behind it. That's been pretty big for us.
We're also doing the BombBombs, and the open rate it's crazy, the difference.
Right. It is, so, and I think that helps build that connection too. They can hear you. They can hear your emotion. They can get a sense for who you are. And if they like you, the chances of them calling you when they start going into that task accomplishment mode, they want to talk about mortgages. They want to talk about credit repair, whatever it is. I want to be the first point of contact. I don't want to be the fourth point of contact. I don't want them calling Rocket Mortgage or any mortgage company getting sent to another realtor. I want to control that contact.
Right. Okay. No, that's perfect. That's perfect. All right. So somebody says her broker just purchased KV Core. Ylopo does not integrate. Would you use it or have a second website?
So, do you have Core? Anybody use Core?
We don't.
It's hard. Yeah, hard to speak on that one because I haven't. I have it myself. But I will say this: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So what we're doing with Ylopo, I don't even know if I want to say that because I don't know KV Core well enough to speak on it.
I don't know really anything about it, so I can't say anything.
Well, I mean, I've used it, and Ylopo has definitely tried to integrate with them. They just haven't really been that responsive, and I think that's a good rule of thumb. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Sometimes saving money, you end up losing it by trying to save with the wrong system.
The best way I can answer that is our broker provides Contactually.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know if Ylopo works with Contactually now, but at the time it didn't. And we just never took advantage of it and just stuck with Follow Up Boss. Ylopo was that important to our business.
Yeah, we do have one-way integration with Contactually right now. But I did the same thing. I'm not going to use a platform. My broker provided one as well. It didn't make sense for me.
Right.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, so can we kind of shoot off a couple tips? I know everybody wants to know about conversion rate, but I still think we got to talk a little bit about, what's our best practices to increase that conversion rate, even though we all have trouble measuring it. We talked about the follow-up. We talked about, some call nights. We talked about video messaging. We talked about action plan. Is there anything else, Grant, that you can think of, or you, Barry, that are going to be really in the wheelhouse of best practices we should all be doing?
Structure and accountability.
Yep.
It's, and we used to run multiple platforms next to each other. When we first joined Ylopo, we also like sync at the same time.
Wow.
And I've also learned that focusing on one for us has been a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember was it the same from my KW days, what you focus on expands.
Mm-hmm.
And by our team really focusing on Ylopo, it has been a game changer there. But it's really come down to structure and accountability. Are you following the plans? How can we help you so you do? Because if you're not going to follow the plans that we've put in place to grow, I mean, what can I do to get you there? And you got to have some sort of accountability. For us, it's removing you from leads if you're not going to do what we need.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, and I like telling my agents in the same way you would go on a job interview and you would study or learn about the person that you are being interviewed by, maybe where they went to school, how many kids they have, and you subtly work that into the conversation. That's how you should be using the data that Ylopo is providing you. How many times are they logging in? How many times are they not logging in? What areas are they looking? Now, what I'm not saying is to memorize their search. Some of you are so nervous about lead follow-up that you spend like 20 minutes studying everything, when really you could just use the summary. They looked at this many homes in this city in this price range, and you can still be relevant to them. You can still work it in without having to do a lot of work. And I think any way you can express and show that insight into what they're doing, it's going to show that you're relevant to their journey. Do you guys do anything special if the lead isn't, the lead comes in and never uses your website? Is there anything you do to drive them back?
Grant, you want to go with that?
It would just be the remarketing if we could. I mean, we're not doing anything special. I'm sure you are, Mike.
Well, we're doing, so we remarket everybody until we get them, right? So, in like I said, as long as we have a way to campaign them, we're going to continue to campaign them. So if we're able to campaign them, that's why I really like, again, call action. That's one of my favorite things I can do is run them through a lot of automation. We're going to keep pushing them back to the home search. Again, the minute I can control their home search, the minute I get other people out of the way, the Zillows and the Realtor.coms.
Yep. Okay. Something else we do, if you go into incognito mode on your website and you do the search, like I was just telling some of my admin team today, go on, do a search for foreclosures in Virginia Beach, do one in Norfolk. And I did 5 cities in the area, and do it incognito so you're not logged in. They don't know who the website doesn't know who you are. Then shorten it. Let's work that into drips and say, hey, I found some foreclosures in Virginia Beach. Here's a link. And you just fire those off. It drives them back to the website. The website gets them searching again. And so anything you can do to provide value, and those links always work. They always show the search results that you want. Open houses, same thing.
So we do the same thing. We always like to make sure that our agents, we kind of give our stuff corny names, almost like Ylopo does, so the agents can remember what we're talking about. We call it, one tactic we do, we call the nugget. So we want to give a nugget, a reason for someone to engage. One of the nuggets we send out there is, hey, a new off-market property came on, looked like something you'd be interested in. If you want it, let me know, I'll send it to you, right? So what we're doing is we're trying to get them to say, yes, I want it, then we'll send it to them. But we're always trying to get them, when they're not engaging, some reason to engage. We don't want to just send them the market report or send them the property. We want them to actually talk with us.
And we do something similar. It'd be like, we have more information on X, Y, Z.
Yep.
And they seem to respond very well on that. We don't have a name for it yet, but I like the nugget.
Yeah, I think it works, and the reality is on Barry's team with the open house, right? So you can get people engaged in the open house, especially if you say, I've got this link for these awesome open houses. Would you like it? Sure, I'd like to see the open houses. Now you can get them on that link.
That's great. A bunch of questions on lenders. How many lenders do you have? Any insight on finding a lender?
Every agent on our team works with a different lender. I have no lenders co-oping right now on our site. Okay. I am negotiating with 2 though right now.
Good man.
So I'll tell you this. The lenders, we work with a team of lenders. And I'll tell you something, if you're going to work with a lender, and you should, you want to make sure that you're controlling where the lending is going, so that other lender isn't going to be pulling your buyer to another realtor. But make sure your lender isn't just spending money on your platform. Make sure their service is world-class, because if they drop the ball, on the leads that your agents, struggle to work with anyway, and the lender drops the ball, those agents aren't going to really love working with that lender, and there's going to be a problem there. So make sure the lender you choose is really customer service oriented.
And the biggest thing, we found every agent on our team has a different relationship with the lender. That's why we haven't zeroed in on one on the platform yet.
So
Okay.
we had the same problem, and there's pushback for the agents. They've got somebody they already like,
Right.
and then here we bring a lender in, and we're saying we need you to use this lender. They're helping contribute to the to the cost here. They're helping pay for this.
Yep.
There's pushback there. They want to use the lender that they like. Well, if you're going to really ask them to use your lender because the lender's paying for it, that lender has to be really good, or
Yep.
the agent is just not going to want to work with them, and there's going to be friction there.
Yep. We experienced that in the past with Zillow.
Yep.
All right. And then let's see. So we got
Barry,
that.
we had one on agentology before. Maybe we can address that one quick.
Go ahead.
So somebody said, I think it's Tamara said, I'm new to Ylopo and trying to figure this out. Is anyone using agentology? We have not. We have our own in-house. But Barry, I think you've done agentology before and Conversion Monster, right?
Yep.
You want to talk on that a little bit?
Yeah, so you only want to buy, no third-party service is ever going to be as good as you. You're always going to convert and be more relevant as a local agent. However, when you're buying these third-party services, it's only a matter of, do you need this particular service to scale your business? Is it supplementing a deficiency in your day? If you can do the follow-up on your own, I honestly don't think you should buy it. The problem is, I would say like 80% of you either don't have the time, don't want to, or you're not good at lead follow-up. You can overcome all three of those things. It's not that hard. So you just have to make a business decision. Is this an area of my business that I want to support? But if you buy those third-party services with the expectation that they'll do better than you, I think that you're just going to miss the mark. I just don't think that's what they're there for. And then, any ideas on limited budget? We've got about 5 minutes. We've already gone over. So I want to answer 2 more questions, and then we're going to have to cut it short. Best way to grow your database with the limited budget?
Can I? Yeah, so it's kind of a hard question to answer. Do you have a database currently and you want to expand on it? Or are you like small
database?
Okay, so with a limited budget, that'd be another tough question, because what's limited for one person might not be for another. So could you give specifics on that, perhaps? Or what's the ad spend we're talking about?
They didn't say. They just said they have a limited budget and they want to grow the size of their database.
Okay, so again, if we're saying 500 a month or 1,000, I'm not sure what a limited budget mean.
Or is it $250 a month? And we trying to grow new leads? What are we trying to grow?
So
Right.
they don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of people in their database. They're just getting started. What would you tell a new agent to do?
Okay, so honestly, this is going to sound counterproductive to Ylopo. One of the things I probably wouldn't do right off the bat was jump right into Ylopo platform, because it's going to take a ramp-up period before you're going to start closing. I would focus primarily on the relationships you have, building that database, because that's most likely going to be the people you're going to work with as a new agent, as your sphere of influence and sort of that group of people you have a relationship with. And over time, you want to start budgeting the money you're making to put into a platform like Ylopo, because then you're going to increase the size, not just of your relationship database, but your lead database. It's completely separate. And if you're going to do that over time, and you say, look, I'm going to take 10% or 15% of my money I'm making and invest them back in my business, Ylopo is an excellent place to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd agree. Because as a new agent or the sphere is where it's going to be at for a long time.
Yep.
All right. So what's great about this is we were all over the place. We were here, we were there, we were here, we were there. You guys handled it like rock stars.
There's a lot of ADD on this call.
I know. It was great because we're all that way anyway. So I want to give you maybe each 30 seconds. And, when you're thinking about Ylopo, you're thinking about finding success. You might have already said it, but remind us if it's something you've already said. What would be one gold nugget to leave our Ylopo success community with, to maybe help them grow or find more success? How can you help encourage the group?
Grant, you want to start?
For me, it's simple. I've probably talked to 10 different YLOPO people over the last couple of weeks that say they're struggling, and it's follow-up. Stick with it and follow up. Make that 7th, 10th, 12th, 15th attempted contact. Our follow-up plan in the first, I think it's 40 days is 52 attempted contacts, just to find out what stage they're at and how we can help them. And I think most people drop the ball by not following up.
Okay.
And also I'll say this. I think systems run businesses, right? If you don't have systems, you're not going to do well on any platform. So the follow-up is going to be huge, but if you do it, reactively or just once in a while, it's not going to work. You've got to have a follow-up system built in. And if you don't, you need to build one. That's number one. And number two, really try to determine what track those buyers are on, whether you want to call it A, B, or C, or whatever track they are, and make sure you're putting them in the correct action plan. That's going to be part of that system. If you do those two things, I think you're going to see wild success with YLOPO.
Huge.
And I learned it the hard way.
I've learned a lot in this hour with the both of you. And I just want to tell the both of you, thank you for helping the YLOPO community. Neither of they're not being paid to be here. They're taking time out of their business schedule to speak into all of your businesses. And for me, I think my greatest advice would be for those of you that don't have the field guide, get it. Because for me, I remember how I feel when someone speaks to me, but I'm not going to remember everything that was said. Learning and repetitive, training is probably the best way of doing this. Stay involved with the YLOPO Success Community Group. Be a part of our webinars, our office hours. I could say that the community, it's almost like a revolution of people that are growing their business digitally, but not the way Zillow and Realtor want us to. And so this is really, I believe, why we're going to be relevant in 10 years is this type of business model where we're out getting it on our own, but we're doing it smart, not hard. So listen, guys, can't thank you enough. I really, really want to do this again real soon. So I'll be in touch with the both of you, and have a great day. Thanks, everybody.
See ya.
Yeah.